Hi everyone, this is Amber here for Pink Chic Paper Design. I am just filming a quick haul video that I received today in the mail. This is my first video, let alone haul video, so you'll have to excuse the jerkiness of the camera. I don't have a tripod right now. I do plan on getting one for future videos though, so they're not as wobbly. As you can see, my haul that I got was 4 lovely sets of the Spectrum Noir markers. These markers are made by Crafter's Companion, and I didn't actually get them off of their website. You can purchase them off their website for roughly, I think they're $12 a pack. I actually got these off of consumercrafts.com for $9 a pack, so saved a couple bucks. And I ordered these last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, because they were offering a really great shipping special. It was $1.95 for shipping an order in the US. So great deal. Decided to jump on it and get my first sets of Spectrum Noir markers and alcohol markers in general. I'll just show you the sets I got quick. I got the Essentials set, which I was reading is it's a set that you really need to get first when you get these markers, because it has not only the grays, a couple of the grays for doing kind of highlighting around your images, but it has your blender marker and as well, which is really important, and then it has a black marker which works for outlining. I got the Pale Hues set, which is also listed on Crafter's Companion and Consumer Crafts website as being the Flesh Tones set. I got a pink set, and lastly the green set. Just a little background on these markers. Crafter's Companion makes 12 sets of 6 markers, and they all come in the color sets like this. And then they also make 4 sets of, I think it's 24 markers a set, and they're markers that complement these markers. And they're like, I can't remember the titles, but I think one's a lights and one's a brights. And then I think there's like a pale and a dark. Not positive on that, but they are basically to complement the initial 12 sets of 6. I chose to do the Spectrum Noir markers as far as alcohol markers go. I've wanted to dabble into alcohol markers for quite a while, but the only alcohol markers that are carried locally here where I live, and the main ones that you run across on a lot of websites, are the Copics markers. And I love the way the Copics markers look. If you do them right, they look wonderfully on images and on cards, but they're very expensive. They can run it anywhere from, I've seen them $4.50 the cheapest, and I've seen them run up to $8 a marker at their most expensive. So really for me, that just wasn't an option at this point. I can't invest that much money to start out with on alcohol markers. And since these were affordable, like I said, $9 a set on consumercrafts.com, I decided to go for these markers. There are a couple of other manufacturers out there that do make alcohol markers besides Crafter's Companion and Copics. I can't really remember the names of them right now. They are a little bit cheaper than Copics, but still kind of pricey, and didn't have all the features that I really wanted, so that's why I went with these markers. One thing I like about these markers is they are square. They're like the original or the classic Copic marker shape, so not the Chow or the sketch markers, but the classics. They are dual tipped, and I don't know if you can see this, but they're labeled with the dual tips, and one is a broad chisel nib, and the other is a fine bullet tip. And I really liked the idea of having a fine bullet tip versus a brush nib like the Copics have, because a lot of my stamps have very small images, and I thought this might be easier to get the smaller images colored with that fine bullet tip nib. I do own a set of markers, actually Tim Holtz Distress markers, and I absolutely love those markers for watercoloring with, and they do have a brush nib on them. But one thing I noticed with my images is sometimes when I get into this coloring the smaller images with his markers, I have a hard time because the brush nib is just it's still too broad for some of the images. So even though I love his markers, I absolutely love them. I have nothing but good things to say about those markers. Yeah, sometimes I just can't get into those small areas. So I'm excited to try the brush nibs out. The markers are labeled with a labeling system. It's a letter or 2 letters and then a digit. And Crafter's Companion does have a color chart out, just like the Copics markers, and it can be downloaded on Crafter's Companion's website. And I do have that, so once I start playing around with these markers more, I'll know where I am with my blendable shades. And they do, for the fine tip, which is what I'll be using mostly, it is kind of nice because they have this little gray ring around the end with the fine tip, so I'll know what tip to use. I have heard rumors that Crafter's Companion is going to be coming out with replaceable brush tip nibs for their markers, and I don't know if this is really true or not. I didn't actually hear it off of the Crafter's Companion website or anything. I heard it off of some other blogs and videos. So if this is the case, I probably will eventually purchase the brush tip nibs and replace the broad chisel tips, because I don't really have any use for the broad chisel tips. They're really meant more to be used, I think, for like graphic artists and stuff, and comic book illustrators. So, that being said, about all the positives that I like about these, there were just a couple little things, and they were actually mostly cosmetic, that I found as drawbacks to these markers. The one big thing, and you'll hear a lot of other people talk about this, is the writing on the markers, on both the ends and the actual title on the marker itself, are just kind of like screen printed or stamped on. They're not really embossed into the markers, so they scratch really, really easily. In fact, I received some markers when I opened them up today that were already, like, some of the writing was scratched off and I hadn't even used them yet. I had just opened them. So I'm going to try to find a way to preserve at least the writing on the ends, because that's important for blending. I was thinking of maybe trying to use some clear nail polish and seeing if that works to seal the writing on the tips. Otherwise, I'll try to think of another thing. to do if that doesn't work. So stay tuned. I will post an update as to whether or not clear nail polish actually works on the tips. So that was just it is kind of a cosmetic thing. It's really kind of you get what you pay for sort of situation. The other thing that I noticed that's kind of silly, but is also cosmetic and is just kind of weird, is that they don't stamp the color codes on the tips the same way on each marker. And I think you can kind of see that on all of these. I have them all lined up with the Spectrum Noir title going the same direction, but for some reason they don't stamp that label on the ends in the same direction. They all go in the different direction, which I thought was just kind of weird, and it's totally irrelevant to how the markers work. It's just a cosmetic thing, and just, I don't know if it's poor quality control on the company's part or what that is, but like I said, it doesn't really affect how the markers work, so it doesn't deter me from buying any more in the future. It just is an odd thing that I noticed. The last thing I noticed when I opened up the package that actually was kind of annoying, I wasn't super happy about it, was one of my green inks, and I don't know if you can see this, but leaked in the package and dripped all the way down the marker, all the way down the front of the marker, leaked in the package and actually hit some of the other markers. And the bummer about this was, well, not only did I lose some ink out of this marker, but everything that I've read about alcohol markers says that alcohol ink is permanent once it dries on any surface. And so at this point, I don't think there is any way I'm going to ever get that gunk off the marker. I think it's permanently dried onto there. So that is kind of a disappointment. Also, when I opened the package, it was just an absolute mess. It got all over my hands, so I wasn't too happy about that. Crafter's Companion does not sell these markers individually currently, so for me to buy a whole nother set just to replace this marker, it's not really worth it for me money-wise. Hopefully, maybe in the future, they'll sell them individually and I can actually replace this marker, because I just don't like that there's gunk on there. I just don't. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels weird and looks messy, and I'm just not a big fan of that. So we'll see what happens in the future. For now, it's got ink in it still. I didn't lose all the ink, so I'll still be able to use the marker. Overall, I am very, very excited that I received these markers. Like I said, have not done any projects with these yet. I will post any future projects that I do with these on my blog, so stay tuned. I do have there's an instructional video. It's about 2.5 hours long that Crafter's Companion came out with to go along with these markers, and I did purchase that DVD at a later date off of another site, so it is on its way. I think I will probably wait until I watch the DVD just to get a better idea of how to use these markers. I might try to dabble a little bit and practice, but I probably won't make any actual projects until I learn how to use these a little bit better. But I thought I would share these with you, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment on the bottom of my post and I will try to answer it as soon as I can. Thank you. Have a great day.